Today we have a very important topic, and we wanted to talk about this important topic. I do want to give a disclaimers for both of us. We are not lawyers, so we're not giving any legal advice whatsoever here, not claiming to give any advice. We're just here asking questions and just using critical thinking. The person that we're going to be talking about, um, Stephanie Carson, we don't know this person. We have no issue or ill will towards her whatsoever. We just have been seeing her make her rounds. We both have seen her on multiple ExJW YouTube channels. And we even jumped on last week. Joe and Fran did an episode. It was called Protect Yourself From ... And you could fill in the blank multiple ways there. You could say protect yourself from manipulators. You could say protect yourself from scammers, fake people. This was the episode that Stephanie Lynn Carson was happened to be on. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to show that clip. It's a 20-minute clip. And we had some questions. We were concerned and had some questions and jumped on. So let me put that on the screen.
Mermaid. Hi, Laura. Thank you for coming on. Yes. If you have any questions, I know you were in the chat. It's hard to answer them in the chat. So we got Stephanie back on. If you want to ask any questions.
And I wanted to throw in there, we thought it was very sweet that Laura Mermaid, she also had some concerns too. So she was in the chat. We were trying to, let's just give some context here. What had happened is you actually were in the chat, right? You had noticed that this person had come on and you had questions, right? And you were asking about the organization. And so Laura was in the chat. We were all in the chat and we just kind of jumped on all at the same time to ask Stephanie our questions because she wasn't really answering them. Remember that? She wasn't answering them. And so Joe and Fran said, jump on, we'll get Stephanie back. And so this is where we are. This is a context of where we were.
Yeah, I just missed it where you were doing the class action lawsuit. So could you, for those of us, can you give a little summary of it again?
Yeah, so the class action lawsuit is available to anyone who suffered crimes of a sexual nature as a child within the Jehovah's Witnesses in the United States. And we're using, instead of calling it CSA, we're calling it trafficking because their silence, which allowed for the crimes to continue and to repeat, created the conditions of trafficking. And child trafficking holds no statute of limitations. So many of the cases that, for instance, this is my fourth, I've been waiting for the statute of limitations to open up for myself. So now that we're looking at it from a trafficking standpoint, it holds, a lot more weight. And that's another reason why coming together as class action is a good idea, is because it'll show, the system and how the overall system works together instead of looking at each case individually. An ant on the sidewalk doesn't look like he's got a lot going on, but when you follow the ant back to the anthill, that's a busy little place. And so if we bring the eyes and the attention into the larger picture simultaneously, I think that we have a lot better chance for success, not only civilly in gaining, rewards for, these that have suffered, but also, such as law change. I've been working since 2018 or 19. Since California, SB 360, I've been going state to state to state trying to change the law, clergy penitent privilege exemption. But, you don't get very far when it's just a few of us working together. But if all of us come together in one voice, we have the power together, and that's why, because it shows the big picture, and which gives us all more weight behind our own personal claims.
How do they vet, if, say I joined the class action suit, how would they vet? Would they take my statement? Would they take my story? I mean, because it's like anybody could come in and say, this or that. And so, and maybe it's
so that would be, each case deserves to be heard by at least a legal team. And, we have an attorney, his name is Travis Walker. You'll find his information on the bottom of the attorney-client intake form, because you're going to communicate directly with him via that form. You're going to tell him, just some small details, but nothing too graphic, so that he can kind of look through it and decide, if it's worth looking into it further or not. Some cases might not qualify and others will. I'm not a legal expert on that, so I can't speak to that. But if you feel that you might have a case, class action or otherwise, you don't have to file class action. You can file individually. That's fine. But this specific attorney is defining what happened to us as children, the repetitiveness of it because of the secrecy, he says, is breeding grounds to basically to call it trafficking, which holds no statute of limitations. So it's just a new way of applying the laws that we have, to benefit survivors. It's just something we hadn't looked at before.
Okay, and so are we incorrect in saying that these people are giving away their rights to file any claims after joining a class action lawsuit, and who benefits from that lawsuit ultimately?
Okay, so the class action lawsuit will run like any other lawsuit. It's to protect you, the victim, survivor, who never had the protection, and that's why you now have this claim to injury. So you retain your story, you retain all rights. This is giving you the power to have your voice heard individually, but yet collectively. So each case will be, held to its own merit and standard, just like we're all familiar with, like Candace Conti's case, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it'll be similar to that, in that, we all have the same burden of proof, but part of the burden of proof is our united voice. And how I really realized this, when you go on the website and you look under the bios, you're going to find us three girls, and it is a religious website, but I swear to you, it's
That's
only
my other question.
Yeah, it's only Star, myself, and Shannon on there.
But who benefits from this nonprofit?
There's
who's the beneficiary of the nonprofit foundation?
We take no donations. It's only a nonprofit in that it's a spiritual journey that us three girls feel that we are on personally. Whatever your spiritual, political, whatever your views are on that, those are yours. That's your human right to hold your own opinion, but it's also your human right to have, the harm to be corrected judicially, and that's all we're trying to offer.
It's just kind of confusing that this lawsuit is going through a religiously affiliated organization.
Tell you, so she decided the WOW website belongs to Star. She's on the biographies on there, and if you read my biography, I say I conjoined my efforts with WOW. Not that I'm a part of WOW. She just wants to give victims a place to put their voice. And so she offered to put the forms on her website, just as other YouTubers have done the same. Like tomorrow night, I'm interviewing with Diary James or something like that. And he'll have the links under his podcast.
I think she meant,
Can you pause it? Oh, okay.
yeah, I was going to say, I think she meant ExJW Diaries, Justin.
Yeah, she did. But I just want to bring something up. She mentioned Candace Conti. It's not just like Candace Conti. Candace Conti was not involved in a class action lawsuit. She had her own separate case. And the
That's a good
second
point.
thing is, when we look at those forms later on, just remember that she said that the victim retains the rights to their story. Okay, there's nothing on those forms, as we're going to point out, that makes that statement at all. So you're signing something that does not state that you retain the right to your case or to your story or anything. That's
Right. There's
all I
nothing
wanted
in
to-
writing. That's a good point. That's a good point. So we'll put a pin in that idea and we will keep going.
Just to print them, it doesn't have to be the website. It's just one of the places where the forms are at. And it's just easy to put it all in one space.
So you're saying they're not affiliated with the lawsuit. The organization, the religious organization, is not
Wow.
affiliated with the lawsuit.
WOW
Wow.
is Star Paul. She is an ex-Jehovah Witness. It's her website. That's all I know about it.
Okay, maybe it would be helpful to maybe have her speak on what that organization is. How is it affiliated with this lawsuit? Because it looks like it's affiliated.
because she is coming forward in the class action lawsuit, and she's inviting everyone else to join it. I am coming forward with my own lawsuit using this attorney. Okay, let me tell you, maybe I should tell you my story. Okay, when I was 11 years old, my brother ran away from home. He was 15, and he ran away from home to escape abuse. He never was able to come back home. 30 years later, he died on the streets. I now had a little child to look for. I have since found the child, but all of this fighting for what we should have been protected as children against, when I finally was able to get justice with this attorney, that my lawsuit's supposed to be filed in like the first part of July is the goal. But I told him my brother has now died, okay? And I'm still trying to get justice for my brother. Thank you. And he died of the heroin epidemic in 2017. He was still homeless.
Wow.
And I am on this justice campaign for what happened to my brother. And when I'm finally getting a voice, everybody else coming forward is the voice for my brother. Because my brother is not alive. He can't sue.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you the one thing that my brother did do when he ran away from home. He put that mother effer in jail. And the gift that he left behind for all of us is court documentation that this happens within the Watchtower organization, and it's covered up. So
Right. So
that's the inspiration behind the class action lawsuit, is that my brother cannot sue, but every victim has the opportunity to come forward.
I'm going to pause it. Did I hear her? Did I hear her right that she is saying she's going to do her lawsuit or file her lawsuit? So it sounds like she's going to have a separate lawsuit for herself and her case on behalf of her brother, which is separate from the class action, if I understood that correctly. Is that how you took it?
that's what it sounded like to me. And that's the whole other question too, is like, we can't figure out who is the actual person that is behind the class action lawsuit. Who's starting it? Because that's the primary plaintiff, and that person will receive more money in the lawsuit. They'll receive a benefit for getting other people to join in this lawsuit, in a class action lawsuit, which we're going to see later, like, because you're going to bring up how class action lawsuit, pretty much a rundown of how it works.
Right. Because from what I've learned too, even in my own situations personally, when I get a letter, and I'm sure many people have gotten letters like from various, like let's say your cell phone company has something going on, or somebody is suing in a class action against your cable company. You'll get a letter in the mail saying a class action has been started. And there's usually a person or one or two people. They're, like you just said, are the main plaintiffs. They're the ones that brought the argument to the forefront. And then if you want to be a part of it, you will get, if everything goes well and you sign on the dotted line at the end and say you want to opt in, you get a portion of whatever the class action. But from my own experience, it's been like, what, a couple dollars? It's been like $50. And also too, my name or anyone that signs it, we're not going to be known. And I'm not saying that that is what this is about, but think about this. If Candace Conti had done a class action, no one would know who she is or who her story is, right?
That's a really good point.
So what I'm saying is that if everyone does this class action, whomever Stephanie and the two other people that I think, and again, that is also kind of blurry. If the two people Star and what's the other name?
Shannon.
Yes.
Something Dinger. Shannon.
Yeah. So two of those friends that she knows, like who is going to be the main plaintiff in all this? And are they doing their own separate cases as well? Like there's not a lot of information. I think that if people are going to join something like this, they should have informed consent. Everything should be black and white. We should know who's the main plaintiff. What are all the details? What is the class? Because I know that you also have to have it under a certain class. You can't just, usually from what I've learned about class, bundle up a bunch of different topics together and then just say, okay, we're all going to do this. So these are the questions I have that I'm pondering as we even watch this right now. So we'll just keep that in mind.
Even the part where she's talking about that this is Star's personal page and that's all she knows about it. Most people are not going to go off and start a religious nonprofit for no reason, just so they can have a personal website to host some documents on. So that doesn't fly with me.
Yeah, something's not adding up. It's not connecting. Yeah,
right.
I agree with you. Okay, let's see what else she has to say.
Because that's what my brother would want.
Yeah. I would just recommend that everyone speak to a lawyer in their own state before they join into another person's lawsuit,
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's very sad what happened. Everyone here, I'm sure, wants justice for your brother. That's of course, but
we want justice for all of us. Yeah.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. Our concerns are that everyone gets their correct justice due for each person. And also, I feel like this is a Watchtower dream. And what I mean by that is when you have a class action lawsuit, it's one and done. It's all these cases, one and done. Whereas if you have various cases going on, not only to me does that show more in the public media, look, these cases, but for Watchtower, it's just easy for them to be like, okay, one and done, we pay out, we're done with it, and now none of these people can sue ever again for their own case. That's all. That's my concern for this.
Right. Yeah. And there, and the class action is not going to be for everyone, so come forward individually. Come on, let's come forward. All of us now is the time. That's all we're saying. And, if you want to do the class action, great. If you don't, but this inspires you to seek your own legal justice, great. Class action is easier for some. So there's 3 of us girls on the website together. There's myself. I'm going to be filing on my own because that way I can draw attention to the class action lawsuit, if that makes sense. Shannon has already filed, and she comes out of the Palmer cases. You guys heard of the Palmer files out of Maine with the
Yes.
with the human trafficking of our Jehovah's Witness children and
I've
satanic
heard of it.
ritual?
I don't know anything about it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, it was a child trafficking ring, very well documented, and which also includes some satanic ritual abuse documented. So it's going to be a big case, and that's Shannon's case, and her case is already filed on the website. Underneath all of us girls, you can click on various news articles that relate to us personally. So you'll be able to go back and read some, and see that I have been advocating for
So
gosh, like
that's-
8 years now.
I wanted to bring up a good point there because you brought up a good point there when you said that people should be talking to their own lawyers, and because this is the thing, people don't realize, I don't think, even I didn't realize until I started looking into this, that when you make a statement, a signed statement, and you send it in somewhere, if this ever comes to fruition and you go to court, that statement is something that is going to be, it could be used against you, because the words that you write in the statement, if you don't match those words up when you're on the stand, those things, I don't think people realize what the whole process entails of. Also, too, once you send your statement out there and it is like put out there, can't Watchtower subpoena?
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. Yeah.
Yeah.
They can subpoena that information, and again, like you're saying, they can use it against you. And even if you use like one word off, say you use the word attack instead of in your written statement, you use the RAPE word, right? So if then you're being like examined and making other statements, they're going to compare those statements and they're going to say, well, what did you mean by that? This is not what you said. They're going to discredit you just off of a word, which that's the way our justice system works. But yeah, that's why you have to be so careful when you're submitting a written statement, because that statement's going to follow you all the way through.
Right. And that's also why there's should be a proper procedure. Like, that's why people are told to contact the police to give a statement, because there's a proper procedure of doing all this. And we're not saying, like, I'm not saying that the government, like, if you go to the police, everything's going to go out right and we're not saying that either. But at least you're going through a proper procedure where there's hopefully a better chance that not only is it taken and it's private, but like, where are these statements going? You're going to know it's with the police. Whereas here, you're filling out a statement, you're signing it. And I think she said there's 2 addresses that they're going to. So my question would be like, where are they ending up? And also, who's opening up them? Who's reading them? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that to me, as if I was a survivor, that would be a little bit much, that would be worrisome for me.
Because that all has to tie back into the confidentiality that they're being promised. These people are being promised confidentiality. Well, like you said, you brought up who's opening these letters. They're going to 2 different addresses. How secure are they at those addresses? She mentions a database that they're going to be entered into.
That was said on ExJW Diaries Justin. So that is concerning. I think she brought up AI too in that one, like something about AI and a database, but you'd have to.
AI is going to sort all the records once they're all entered. Like, so who's entering them? Where is this database? Is this database secure?
Right.
And what are you doing after this AI sorts them? There's like no information given as to why the AI is sorting or for what reason, or
yes,
like, there's just a
and
lot
also we already know that things on the internet it's already scary, like security wise, and anything on the internet is not secure. So like, people have to be careful about that in general. So these are all concerns that it's rightfully so to have these questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's continue on.
So your lawsuit though is separate from this,
only
class action,
because
right?
only because I'm using mine to bring forward the class action.
Okay, so there's where she confirmed it. I thought that's what she was saying. That's right. She confirmed that it is separate, and she's saying it's separate because she thinks that's going to bring more attention to the class action, I guess.
Yeah, what does she mean by it's going to bring forward the class action? Like you said, does it just mean that she's using it to bring attention? Because
Yes,
that
see?
doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense that that would bring attention to a class action lawsuit if you're not a part of the class action lawsuit.
Right, right. So I'm not sure. That's a good question.
And to have a voice for all of us as we're trying to build up to the crescendo, to the ending, the finale. This is basically all three of us girls on that website have been fighting this more in a you don't know us very well because we've been out in the secular world giving speak.
Well, actually, we don't know you guys at all.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, so that's a good point, but that's another thing we have to keep in mind here, and not always just be so trusting. This is what we've said, and we brought this up before. It's like we have to not just be so trusting. We don't really know. Like I said in the beginning, as a disclaimer, I don't have anything against Stephanie. You don't have anything against Stephanie. We
No.
just don't know her from the hole in the wall. We don't know
Right.
Star. We don't know Shannon. We don't know any of these people as far as we're concerned. Stephanie just popped up out of
Yeah.
nowhere. Okay. And I could be wrong, but it feels like she popped up out of nowhere. And also too, we have yet to see who Star is. We don't know who
Right.
Shannon is, so we don't really know any of these people. It's just been Stephanie making her rounds throughout the XJW community on various XJW YouTube channels, right?
Yeah, without any kind of legal representation to explain the details of all of this.
Right. Yeah, you think it would be smart to have a lawyer friend or somebody, even like the Travis lawyer that she's working with, come on, maybe a couple with her. Maybe that would help address some of these concerns, and we could ask questions to the actual lawyer, because
or even a paralegal that works for him or something.
yeah, somebody that can do the legal part, but in a friendly, easy to understand way for us regular folk. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you and I, we're just regular folk. We're not we're not
right.
legal people, but we do have questions, and we are critical thinkers, and these are just questions that pop into our brain, and we just want to, get it out there. So
Yeah.
okay, here we go again.
Talks at like anti-trafficking seminars with law enforcement.
Mhm.
I deal a lot with politicians nationwide, and so I do a lot of political stuff behind the scene and get up close to people like Rick Grinnell, Kash Patel, different state senators in different states, and on the like. When my brother passed away, I was actually working for Tucker Quayle, who's Dan Quayle's son, which he was the vice president for George Bush during 9/11, or first George Bush in the early 90s. So I have a lot of connections.
Mhm.
And so that's also why the redress is, because if we can bring all of our voices together at once and cause this storm, I'm hoping that some of the connections that I have in politics and in the journalist world will, if I can show this strong force coming behind me, they're going to pay attention, and we can demand some changes in laws that will protect the children, and protect society as a whole, not just the children. If we can stop the abuse, it makes a better world.
Yeah, of course.
Well, yeah,
So-
I agree. And that sounds good, like all standing and you being united. We all want to be united and support each other.
Amen.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there's just a pattern that I see in the XJW community that has carried over from being a JW, where people blindly trust and people just trust whatever. And that's why we're trying to come forward to say, before people just go and jump into something,
Right.
you need to know all the facts, because if
Right.
you're okay with a class action, if you're okay with sharing your story and knowing that you can't sue, down the road, or that you may not get what you think you deserve, or maybe you are like me and you want to have like a lot more cases. I would love to see cases all across the board going after Watchtower. That would be amazing.
Right.
You know?
Or some people feel
Yeah.
stronger, like that Star, she wants to wait for the class act alone. A lot of us are fighting.
She kind of cut out there, but it sounded like she said Star wants to wait for the class action.
So maybe it is Star that is heading up the
Class action
lawsuit, and maybe she's the primary
plaintiff.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, but why wouldn't you just say that? I don't understand that.
Also, it's unfortunate she cut out there, so it's like we're guessing and
Yeah.
speculating there. So
Yeah.
maybe that can be in the comment section. Some Stephanie or somebody can clarify what she was saying. So
Alone.
Yeah.
A lot of us are in the world alone. Our families are still cult members. We're isolated because we never really fit in. I've been in the world for 30 years and I still feel like a weirdo. So it's a lonely world.
right.
It's a really lonely
Yeah.
world, and we need to speak for everybody. And then our group, we're going on, not just Jehovah's Witnesses. The next cult that we're going to do the same exact thing with is the LDS, and then we're moving on to Scientology. And
That's an interesting point too, because in our research, didn't we find out that there's already a case going against LDS? There's something going on
I
already
think there's
in the works.
several cases. There's like 100 cases, or I mean, like there's like a lot of cases going on against the LDS Church. But
So that's interesting. And hey, more power to her and her group of people if they want to do that, to take on all of those different religious affiliations, So
right.
that's
That's
interesting.
like the lawyer must have a pretty huge scope to be able to do all of that too,
Right. I agree. And that's something also I'm curious about, like what experience does this Travis Walker have with dealing with these kinds of cases, and how many cases has he won? These are questions just a regular person. When you're looking for a lawyer, you want a lawyer that is an expert in that particular field, right? You don't go to a divorce lawyer for a workman's comp injury, So that's also something important. Like I would be asking, if I was a survivor, I would call up and talk to Travis Walker's office and say, hey, what's his record? Like, what has he done cases like this before? And just kind of look into it and figure it out.
And this sounds like it's going to be not just a national case for the civil part, but also a criminal lawsuit or criminal something to change laws that they're putting together internationally. She's saying she wants people to contact. So,
globally.
Where are the lines? Where do the lines get drawn here? Does he have the jurisdiction to go outside of Florida? I don't know. Maybe he's registered nationally, but is he registered internationally?
Right. That's a good question. Like, how does this all work? Can a lawyer in the United States, in a state, in one state, in the state of Florida, cover not only all 50 states jurisdiction wise, but can he or she also cover Australia, UK, and all these other places? That is such a good question. And I have no idea. And that'd be something that any lawyer that's watching this video, that'd be a great question to have them like interject on that, because that's an important thing. Because if all these people from different places are going to be a part of this, how does that all work? Great question.
It's ecumenical, which means multi-denominational. This is an issue. These pedophile rings, they don't care, what religion the child is.
Yeah. They don't discriminate, that's for sure.
No, they don't, do they? Yeah, so no, us three girls on that website have gone through very different spiritual journeys. Two of the girls are Christian, and then there's me. I'm not a Christian. But we all get along, and because we're all doing the same work, but we've all through our healing processes that we've gone through together, the three of us girls over the last 8 years, we've been friends. We've really kind of gone through the spiritual battle of healing. So for us, that's what we feel is our ministry, is the new faith that we have found within ourselves, but we don't expect anyone to conform to what we believe because the three of us don't even agree. But we're respectful of each other.
Someone in the chat said, Brian Chase, the really important part is the redress, bringing Watchtower to justice and changing loopholes in legislation. The strength we have is together. The lawsuit is a bonus for some people.
Right, exactly. So that really is. And if you read the redress, I dare say every one of us would find something that Watchtower committed crime against us. I know Linda James, I don't think she's on the podcast tonight. Her and I've talked extensively on, the human rights abuses. Did you know it's one of your human rights that you're allowed to change your thought processes, your theological thought process, and you cannot be disciplined for that? I mean, it's like you're not allowed to be shunning is against your human rights.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us
Of course.
about that. I do really appreciate that. I guess I'm just going to end with the note that I said earlier. It's just everyone should look into it for themselves and figure out how this all works before jumping onto a decision, and do what's best for you.
Yeah, and this is the early stages, so we have you all have time to do your research and to learn and to just that's why I'm here now, is so y'all can start to learn who I am. I've been, more in the secular world, so I understand. You don't know who I am, but I did used to work for Barb's Scars. Do you remember her nonprofit Scars? Barb Anderson.
Oh, Barbie.
Oh, Barbie Anderson. Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
You say that,
So,
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her and I have been friends for 15 years probably now. So, yeah, but I don't do a lot of social media stuff because I don't know how to work all that. But yeah, Fran and Joe have my number. Any of you are welcome to contact me. And if you have platforms, great. If not, at least share with 2 or 3 people and let them make their own decisions. So
All right. Thank
I would
you. Have a good night.
appreciate y'all.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Okay, well then she would be fine. I mean, it sounds like this is exactly what she wanted us to do, is share with a couple of friends and make sure that everybody is, on board and wants to do what's right for them.
The one point I did want to bring up also is that Stephanie was saying that you have plenty of time and, to get to know me and all this stuff. However, that is kind of a conflict in what the documents themselves say, because if you pull those up and on the website, it says that time is of the essence. And a couple of times it says over again that, the sooner you get this done, the sooner the better, kind of thing. So is it that we have all this time and take your time and think about it and, put your ducks in a row? Or is it hurry up, we got to get this done?
Right. We can take a look at that, because right now, why don't we go to the website and
Okay.
take a look at that? So I'm going to go over there. Okay, so here is the WOW website. It's worldorganizationwelfare.org. And here's the first thing that pops up when you go to the website. It says, returning the forms, your completed testimonies are mailed to one of the addresses. The first form is for the investigators of the criminal case and is sent to a dedicated PO box. The form must be signed to be admissible evidence, and all submittals are confidential unless explicit approval otherwise is given. What does that mean? All submittals are confidential unless explicit approval otherwise is given.
Right. Yeah, we don't know what that means.
And then it says the second client intake form will be sent directly to the class action civil attorney home office, and their office will contact you directly about your legal case. So one form goes one place to the investigators, and then the other form goes to the attorney, it sounds like.
Well, and technically it's two places, because the one form that goes for the redress, that goes to two different addresses, either or, because one is the WOW PO box, and the other address is the praying for the sins, something for the sins of others.
I found it. It's under criminal lawsuit. It says the investigators have already gathered enough evidence to proceed with these cases, but want to include everyone's testimony and make this a landmark case that will result in needed changes to our laws in the future. The investigators' goal is to include a minimum of 1,000 testimonies to the prosecutors for each cult group. We believe this is a modest goal, but there is a short timeline, so it is urgent. There it is.
Yeah,
That's what you're
there you
talking
go.
about
And
there.
yes, and now that brought up another couple of questions that I had about this, is that so you want to include a minimum of 1,000 testimonies to the prosecution for each group. So that would be ExJW's is one group. What happens if you don't meet that 1,000 testimonies? And here all these people have submitted signed
Yes.
letters. Yeah, and the other thing is that we're running into something here where, like, there's a time constraint on some states for submitting CSA information legally. So, like, what happens? You're holding this until you get 1,000 letters, which you might or might not reach.
Right.
But
That's
in
a
the
good point.
meantime, each state has its own time frame for when they can submit to the state for their own case.
Isn't that like
right?
statute, isn't the term like statute of limitations or something
Yeah.
like that? Something like
Yeah.
that. I don't know the legal jargon, but yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. And then how long are you holding
Yeah,
on to
how does
these?
that
Or
work?
how does that work? How, because if she's saying that we have the time and then they're saying on the website that it's urgent, like how long is this gonna take? Like there's no time frame. There's no one's giving like a deadline. So like it, when we did Operation Spotlight, there was a time they would say, send in your letters by this time. And it made it easy for everyone to know like what time they had and the limitations. But here it's like,
Yeah.
we don't know how long it's going to take, how long they have to do these things. And like you just said, each state might be different. So what are they going to like hold on to some letters? And then some of the letters are going to be null and void because when they finally get to them, the statute of limitations is, oh, sorry. You
Sorry,
see what I'm
in your
saying?
state, the statute of limitations has run out for you. Yeah.
Yes. By the time we got the 1,000, it's too late for you. Yeah. Oh my goodness. This is a whole nother can of worms. Okay. So on the website, as we go down here, here's the petition.
The redress.
Okay. So yep, it is the Watchtower petition for redress questionnaire that I had us wanting to look at. I know that when we chatted this part, can you see what I'm highlighting here?
Yeah.
It says, currently there's a team of private investigators as well as detectives and prosecutors assembling a clear case of how crimes committed against a person are systematically hidden by religious organizations. A list of crimes may include, but not include to the following. So we got trafficking, CSA, CRA, human rights violations, the big R of a child or adult, forced labor or other crimes involving bodily harm or the threat thereof, including battery, assault, and domestic violence. So our question here was that when we're dealing with class action lawsuits, usually I would think you'd have to have a class, like a specific subject that you're focused on in a class action. And here there's just a lot of things going on. How are they supposed to hone in on a topic?
You include that last sentence too, because additionally, offenses such as harassment, stalking, kidnapping are also considered crimes against the person. So it sounds like that's going to be included too.
Right. And I'm not sure if class action lawsuits work that way. This is another thing where we need a lawyer friend to explain this to us, because usually with a class action, it usually sounds like it's a specific topic or subject. You can't just like throw in a bunch of things into a class action. I mean, if I maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but that's what I'm thinking. And so here, just to get take a look over it, it's just questionnaire. You put your name, your address. I mean, again, that's all your personal information. And here's some of the questions they're asking. Let's see, full name, known address, your email. You put your phone number, your alias if you have one, social media links, pictures. They want pictures possibly, your work location and profession, and then also what your position was within Watchtower, if you were, what you were in there, current location of worship. So they want to know your current religious affiliations. Let's see. They want to know.
Or were they talking about, maybe they were talking about the perpetrator's current place of worship?
Current location of worship. I don't know.
Information about the person who committed the crime. Yeah, it's under number 6.
Information with the person. Okay, so that they want to know that okay. And then please estimate how many times, and then were they ever prosecuted or convicted? Let's see. Any other persons involved? Ooh, they want to know if the person was reprimanded by Watchtower. This is interesting.
Yeah, if they attended a judicial committee.
Yeah. Were the crimes reported to police? That's a big one. They should have been.
Oh, and
what?
Do you have lasting emotional or other side effects attributed to how the Watchtower resolved the situation? Now you're getting into, I mean, doesn't that get into kind of HIPAA law right there by saying you have a specific kind of emotional,
or medical issue because of it, side
medical
effects,
issue,
emotional side effects, something like that. Because it says, please briefly describe any additional relevant information. Okay, it is not required to provide additional information. Attach another page of information if needed. So I guess they are saying it's a brief description. They're not saying describe the whole event,
Right.
and write a book about it. So that
and I think somewhere in the
reasonable.
document she does say don't put all the
or graphic stuff.
Detail, graphic details. Yeah.
That's good. Yes. So then there you sign, you date, and then down at the bottom it says your voice matters, and it says here's the 2 locations. Send original signed testimonies to one of the addresses below. Paying for sins of others in Fairview, Pennsylvania, and then in McKinleyville, California. So they're going to opposite sides of the country too.
And neither one of these places are the lawyer, so you're not dealing directly with the lawyer. This is
good point.
There's no legal tie on this specific document here.
Right. You would think it would go directly to the lawyer.
Yeah.
Wow. So who are these people? Who's it going to? I wonder if one is going to see, this is all speculation, but maybe one's going to Stephanie, her P.O. box, and then one's going to one of her friends.
Because she had a booklet that she published, and it's called Paying for the Sins of Others. So I would assume that's her P.O. box. And the other one, I think she said, was Stars Organization.
And these are just questions that we're asking here.
Right.
Okay.
And I have a question. Who created those questions specifically? Because they're not tied back to any organization other than Stephanie's organization and Star's organization. So did they create the questions?
That's a good question. Asked? Yeah, that's a good question. Another great question. So now we're going to go over the attorney-client intake form. This is what it looks like. If you experience multiple instances of abuse, you do not need to document each separately.
And at the top of here, it says attorney-client privilege. So you are entering into attorney-client privilege with this lawyer now.
Yes.
This is now
Yep.
Well, intake form though, is that I don't know.
It's a questionnaire designed to gather information about your experience to determine how they can assist you. Please provide as much detail as you feel comfortable sharing in the space provided. And if you experience multiple incidents of abuse, you do not need to document each separately. Just describe the pattern as a whole at this time. So here you are. You're saying your religious denomination, your personal information, The incident details. So here's what they're asking for: this location, where it happened, the date or time frame, age, were you baptized at the time, publisher, pioneer, any leadership role. And then now they want the perpetrator. Then their name, the roles in the organization. Okay. Did you report it to the people in the congregation? And then legal. Did you report it to the police? Was a case opened? Did anything happen? So they want to know if you pursued a civil lawsuit. That's interesting. Because it's like, if you did do that, can you do this one? So, you know how there's criminal lawsuits and civil lawsuits. How exactly is this going to be categorized? Because isn't that different? A civil lawsuit is different than a criminal lawsuit. So if you do a civil lawsuit, can you still do a criminal lawsuit? These are questions I have as
Yeah,
I'm
that's a good question.
reading this. Okay. How many pages is this? Okay, 4 pages, and then final notes. And then where's this getting sent to? There we go. There it is. That's Travis. That's his office. 1100 Southeast Federal Highway, Stuart, Florida, 34994. So
Yeah, so I would assume that these questions are being brought, you know, from his law firm, like these are his questions, but we don't really know that.
right. Yeah, that's you're right. We're speculating again.
So looking at that form there that has Travis's name on it, I remember Stephanie saying that the lawyer was going to take all these statements and filter through them, filter out whether or not he thinks that your case can be part of this lawsuit. So I think that's the point of that intake form. But this is also another point to make. What happens if you now have this signed document that you sent over to the lawyer and it doesn't get to be part of this lawsuit?
And at the same time, you've
Is
already
it still
sent
protected information
right.
at that point?
And at the same time, you've already sent, on top of that, you've already sent 2 separate statements to 2 different locations. So let's say you get, the lawyer gets it, and then he says, I'm sorry, we don't have enough to go forward with your case. So now you've sent 2 statements out with all your information. I don't know. I guess I would rather send something to the lawyer first, or talk to my own lawyer first before I do this.
Talk to
Obviously,
your own lawyer
we all
first,
go back to that. We always say, go to your own lawyer first. That's would be my own thing that I would do. But even so, sending it to the lawyer to even say, hey, do I even have a case? Before I go and send my statement to 2 other locations, I want to know, can I even go further with this? You see what I'm saying? So we wanted to cover just one more thing that we saw on the WOW website. It was the privacy policy. There was something that caught our eye on this paragraph here. It said, we may see general visitor information such as what a city visitor is browsing from and how long visitors browse our site, or how many visitors have viewed our blog post, but we do not sell or share any data with third parties unless specified within the confines of a campaign. That's interesting. What does that mean?
Yeah. What qualifies a campaign, right? And like this could technically be called a campaign to end human trafficking, a campaign to end CSA, right? So is this information ever going to be sold?
Yes. Like
it's a little vague.
That's a good point. Okay, so yeah, I came across this from a Facebook friend, and it's very thought-provoking, and it literally is on point with exactly what we're talking about here with class action lawsuits. So here's what it says. It says, we love and appreciate the support and enthusiasm of those that love and contribute to our community, but please be careful to who you are sending your information to. If your information is going to be used in a class action lawsuit, what is the process? The first step of a class action lawsuit is as follows. 1, filing the lawsuit. A lead plaintiff or representative of the class files a complaint in court outlining the claims against the defendant and defining the class of individuals affected. Number 2, seeking class certification. The lead plaintiff, there you go. There's kind of like answering our question about the lead plaintiff.
Yeah,
There's a lead plaintiff, then moves
right.
the court to certify the class, demonstrating that it meets the legal requirements for a class action. So in parentheses, numerosity, commonality, typicality, and adequate representation. Number 3, discovery. If the court certifies the class, the parties engage in discovery, where they exchange information, documents, and conduct depositions to gather evidence. Number 4,
Wait a
settlement.
minute.
Yep. You want to cover number 3?
That comment on number 3 is that, so are these documents that are being submitted into, that are on this WOW website and Travis's website, the lawyer, are they part of the discovery phase of the investigation?
That's a good question. Great question. So number 4, settlement negotiations. After discovery, parties often engage in settlement negotiations to try and resolve the case without a trial. Well, we know that all too well. How many times has Watchtower settled out of court? They don't want these cases to be in the limelight. And this is the point that I brought up in Joe and Fran's video, is that Watchtower, this is a dream for them to do a class action,
Yeah.
putting everybody's name in a hat. No one really knows anybody. No one's name is out there. No one even knows these cases. And they're just going to quietly settle it out and cancel out 1,000 cases. That was their goal, right? They want 1,000 at least to go forward. So that's 1,000 cases settled out of court, and boom, it's just gone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Good point.
number 5, trial. So if they can't come to a settlement, if negotiations fail, the case proceeds to trial, where both sides present their evidence and arguments to the court. Number 6, and that's where it gets tricky, number 5, right? Because once they present their evidence and arguments to the court, this is what we're talking about being their statement being subpoenaed. And then also, if they don't match exactly what they wrote and
Right.
sent to these places, the lawyers are going to have a field day with that. They're going to say, oh, well, you said this word in your statement. Are you lying? Right?
Yeah.
Number 6, court approval of settlement judgment. If a settlement is reached, the court will review and approve it. If a trial occurs, the court will render a verdict. Number 7, notification to class members. After a settlement or judgment, class members are notified about the outcome, their ability to opt out for the settlement, and how to file a claim for compensation. This is what I talked about earlier, when you get those little letters in the mail saying,
Yeah.
oh, there's a class action, and then you can either send in to opt in or opt out. So that's like the kind of the procedure of how this all works. And then number 8, claim filing and distribution. Class members who wish to participate in the settlement or receive any awarded damages are required to file a claim. The court may appoint a claims administrator to handle this process. Man, it makes me think about how many times your statement and your words and your survival, your CSA is going to go into how many different hands and be read by, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy. Okay, the important process of discovery. Here's a point that is being brought up in this. To begin preparing for trial, both sides engage in discovery. This is the formal process of exchanging information between the parties about the witnesses and evidence they'll present at trial. Discovery enables the parties to know before the trial begins what evidence may be presented. It's designed to prevent trial by ambush, where one side doesn't learn of the other side's evidence or witnesses until the trial, when there's no time to obtain answering evidence. One of the most common methods of discovery is to take depositions. A deposition is an out-of-court statement given under oath by any person involved in the case. It is to be used at trial or in preparation for trial. It may be in the form of a written transcript, a videotape, or both. In most states, either of the parties may take the deposition of the other party or of any other witness. Both sides have the right to be present during an oral deposition. Depositions and enable a party to know in advance what a witness will say at the trial. Depositions can also be taken to obtain the testimony of important witnesses who can't appear during the trial. In that case, they reread into evidence at the trial. Often a witness's deposition will be taken by the opposing side and used to discredit the witness's testimony at trial if the trial testimony varies. That's what we're talking about. If it varies from the testimony taken during the deposition. A lawyer might ask a witness at trial, "Are you lying now or were you lying then?" Do you know if it's not during the process legally known as discovery, it can be thrown out, especially if the information is viewed as compromised. It is important to understand the dangers of giving people unauthorized by the courts information. Sharing personal information without consent can lead to various harms such as identity, theft, financial fraud, and reputational damage. Exceptions to the rule. While consent is generally required, there are exceptions, such as disclosures mandated by law or court orders. However, even in these cases, the disclosure should be limited to the necessary extent.
Wow. Okay.
Discovery is a legal process. The court plays a role in overseeing discovery, ensuring it is conducted fairly and within the bounds of the law. In short, this means both sides, including the plaintiff and defendant, can issue a request for discovery. A plaintiff may issue a discovery request when trying to form a case against an opponent. At the same time, a defendant may issue a discovery request when trying to obtain evidence to defend their position. So isn't this kind of like how we were talking about where Watchtower could subpoena these statements
anything that's in the database that they're going to
create?
create.
Yeah. Possibly. Yep. Have you unintentionally given someone the written consent in writing to do whatever they want with the information because they are using the Privacy Act of 1974? Once that information is sent off, you no longer have control over how it's used. That is
Powerful
wow.
point.
Yes. Yes.
One little last interjection before you go there.
Yeah.
What if the letter never gets there for some reason? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, that's a pickle on itself. And like, what would happen? Yeah.
Yeah.
So lastly, how do class action lawyers get paid? A class action lawyer takes on the lawsuit for free and only collects if a monetary amount is paid and not appealed. So if you are being asked to donate for a class action lawsuit, we would suggest you research more on how class action lawsuits actually works to protect yourself against potential scams. Wow, that's even crazier. Like if people were asking for money, that would be red flag, red flag. You know what I'm saying? Like no one should ever be asking you money to do a class action, you know?
Right.
And then lastly, they gave a example, like a Watchtower example. It says, I remember an announcement not so long ago that elders were considered independent contractors. What this actually means is the Watchtower organization is removing responsibility from criminal conduct, so you have to sue the guilty party individually. However, as all things, this can be challenged. Yeah, because Watchtower is sneaky. Well, if elders are considered independent contractors, that means that Watchtower can say, my hands are clean. My hands are washed clean.
So Watchtower is saying we don't have anything to do with this because you're independent contractors, elders.
Bingo. Yes.
So they already have something set up so that when you come after Watchtower, they can knock it down. It sounds like, right?
Yes. Yes. Watchtower, we all know. We've seen this. We all know they're very conniving and sneaky.
Yeah.
And they will hold things out forever and just use JW members' money to keep buying, their time. Yes.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
Another thing we both noticed in looking into this and having more questions, because we wanted to see if maybe some of the videos that Stephanie was in would maybe answer some of these questions. But what ended up happening is it created more questions. We want to share this video where Stephanie went on to Fixing My Faith's live stream, and they had Ruby interview her, and she brings up some interesting information that we want to talk about. So let me go ahead and play the clip, and then we'll talk about it.
And these private investigators that I'm working with right now are absolutely amazing. Their organization is called SaveThem.org. They're in the process right now of rescuing children and adults in South Africa out of these gold mines that have been abandoned, and now the militia groups are coming in with their slaves.
Okay. Well, that's all of that's very interesting. I mean, I think I have questions even about the gold mines, but the part that we wanted to talk about was the Save Them
Yeah,
organization.
and first of all, they're out of South Africa, which I found, I don't know, interesting, I guess, because this is, being started here in the United States. And so, I decided to look up who is SaveThem.org,
Right,
and
because
we
you're
did that.
right, because we're curious. Like, okay, she brought up a group and we're trying to figure out, where this all leads. And so
Right.
let's bring up we found a website, Save Them, SaveThem.org. So let's see here. Okay, so here's the website
Yeah.
that it takes you to. So this is what it looks like. It has an About Us section.
Mm-hmm. What they do. And
There's
I think
even-
it says about
There's even, look
trafficking
at
in there.
this. There's a podcast here.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it looks like they're on Spotify and Apple. So that was kind of I haven't listened to it personally, but you said you went and listened, and it was kind of interesting what the topics they were talking about, right?
Yeah. Well, it's religiously affiliated.
Mhm.
And if you look here, there's on the website that you're showing now, it has a EIN number, because every religious tax exempt organization has a tax employee ID number attached to it. So I just took that number and I put it into the IRS tax site, where you can look up religious charity organizations.
And you found something interesting. Let's go look to see
Yeah.
what happens when we do that. Okay, so we're on the IRS website where you can put in the EIN number, and here I entered in 464-019-727, and then we
Right.
do a search, and it takes us to this Ransom Foundation in Merrifield,
Yeah.
Virginia.
Yeah, so I'm like, well, so what is Ransom Foundation? I don't know what that is. So
Right, so we click on that, and it takes us to there's a lot of information, their tax information or whatever, but then if you click on this takes us to it
that's
was
the
like
letter,
it's a letter.
it's their determination letter when they first got their tax exempt status.
Right, so let's show that letter. Okay, and so here's the
Okay.
letter that we came across. You want to read it?
Right, and it's
What you see?
stamped as of September 2014 that they received their tax exempt status. But if you notice in the upper left-hand corner, it says Ransom Foundation, 1310 North Jackson Street, Arlington, Virginia, and the zip code. So I just happen to want to see what this place works out of. Where is
Right.
that address?
Just out of curiosity, yeah. So let's see where it takes us. I mean, like,
Yep.
come on, Nancy Drew, let's do this.
Yeah.
Okay, so we punch in the address 1310 North Jackson Street, Arlington, Virginia, and this is what comes up.
It's the address of this foundation, this Ransom Foundation, which is
Okay.
associated, again, the reason we got here, remember, is because we were looking up this SaveThem.org foundation that saves trafficked children. And what do we come up with? We come up with a big house. Well, maybe it's not a mansion, but it is worth a mansion's
Well, for some people,
sum.
yeah.
To over, $2.5 million, and it's a
Mhm.
residence. It's not a business.
All we're saying is it's just interesting. It's just something to think about.
And-
That's all we're saying.
And see, here we haven't even really shown people how this is religiously affiliated yet? Because the reason we tie it to a religious affiliation, because right now it just looks like it could just be a charity, like they say they are. They're just a charity that saves people from the T word. But if you go onto their podcast, savethem.org website again, and you look into the podcast, you see a whole list of different topics that they're discussing, and they're religious.
Let's go
They
check it
talk
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go check it out. We won't listen to them, but we'll just check out some of the titles. When you go to the Save Them website, if I scroll down here, so you click here, it takes you to a podcast. Okay, and as you can you see this right here? This
Christianity, one of the first things that
yes,
comes up. And this is why we're saying they're religiously affiliated.
yes, in every shape, way, and form. And maybe some people in the XJW community that doesn't phase you. It doesn't matter to you, but like it's just something to be mentioned. Also, if you look at a lot of the things that they talk about, like look at this one, the CIA and our identity in Christ. Like I don't know what has
Yeah.
that's an
The
interesting topic.
mission is to slay Satan.
Yeah.
Just the thing to think about here is like, so you're talking about an investigative organization now for the law, supposedly, that is religiously affiliated with this. This is their podcast.
Yeah.
These are the
Exactly.
topics that they're discussing. What does this have to do with trafficking, actually?
Witchcraft in the church. It's just very Satanism and child. You know what? I'm not going to say it. Black magic has consequences. It's just very wow, I don't even want to say this. Grandpa is you see this? Okay.
Yeah.
Like it's just very it gives me like zealots, like overzealous Christians vibes. Okay?
Yeah.
Ah, wow. It's very interesting. So that's something that we wanted to share because we thought it was just an important, it's like we were led from here to there, and it's like everything kind of connects the dots. And then it also led us to another name. She was on Rick Farron's Six Screens. I think it was 2 Saturdays ago. I think it was the April 26, 2025 one. Barbara Anderson Tells All, where Barbara Anderson wasn't there, but Dan and Angela were there.
Yeah.
So she came on and she gave the name of Russ Dizdar. So,
And she
of course,
said that this was another set of investigators that she's working with.
correct. Yes. So this was a name, and they're in this group together. So we looked up this Russ Dizdar just to, we're curious, right? We want to know who this person is. And so we did a Google search, and interestingly enough, some interesting stuff comes up, right?
Mm-hmm.
It looks like he's got a book on Amazon called The Black Awakening: Rise of the Satanic Super Soldiers. And then I think it took us down another rabbit hole of a website that he has, right?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
his shatterthedarkness.net is his website.
Okay, let's go look at that. Okay, and so here's the website that we found, shatterthedarkness.net. And here, as you can see, this popped out, right? SIIU Investigation Unit.
Right. I'm thinking that I guess that's the investigative unit that this Russ Dizdar works out of.
Yeah, that they're
Since she mentioned his name,
Mhm.
this is his investigative unit. So this is the second one now. First it's that other organization, and now it's this one. But look at this page. It's full of all kinds of religious affiliated, again, information. The
Yeah,
Book of Acts is there. He's written books. He has his own podcast, if you see there on the left side of the screen.
Oh yeah. Did you say that when you were researching this that you found out did he pass away or is he still alive? This Russ
I-
Dizdar.
Yeah, well, that's another interesting thing is I came across when I was looking up his name, there's a GoFundMe out there under Charity Dizdar, I guess his daughter or something, and she says she's looking for money to carry on the work of Russ, and she's raised about $9,000 or so dollars, and she has her own website, which I went to, is shatterworld.org or shatterworld.net. I can't remember, but either way, I mean, it comes up when you put the guy's name in there, that there is a GoFundMe out there that is collecting money under his name to carry on his work. So I assume he died. So it's kind of, I mean, maybe, I don't know how that's connected or not, but
it's just interesting.
it's interesting, and her website is defunct. The one that she links to, it doesn't even exist. So it's kind of strange.
Yeah, I feel like the more we research this, the more we have more questions. Isn't that interesting?
And there's another name down there. If you scroll down to
oh, it's just hard. It's hard not to look at all this stuff because it's just
I know.
So intense.
It is.
Okay,
and
right here.
Right there, yeah. That
Douglas
name
Hagman.
Douglas Hagman, right.
Detective
And I remember yeah, what does it say? It says Detective's Choice.
Detective's
So
Choice.
He
it says
coffee.
He also sells coffee. Yeah.
He sells coffee, but this guy's name was on the SaveThem.org website's podcast. He was on the guy's podcast, and so I looked him up, and he is an investigator, but he specializes in like blood spatter and something else, but he also has his own podcast. So now we've come across 3 separate podcasts, 3 separate places that are to do with this trafficking information, and they're religiously affiliated. It's very strange.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And like I said, it feels like the more research that we look into, or the more we try to look into something, I feel like the more we have more questions. We should be like feeling like, oh, now I understand, or oh, this is all making more sense to me. But instead it's like taking us down this crazy rabbit hole. And it kind of reminds me of the Tim Ballard thing.
Ballard, yeah, exactly. If you go back down to that coffee ad with the Hagman, it says the Hagman Reports. That's the name of Doug Hagman's podcast. And if you go to the right there, it says actforamerica.org.
Oh, yeah.
That's
right
another very interesting website that it leads you to something to do with Elon Musk, and it's all like political and religious affiliations.
Right. And yeah, you can click on it. There's a link here and also here. So if I wanted to, anyone wants to get more, they could look at, click on this, and they can also click on Law Enforcement Today. It's all, you're right. He's affiliated with a bunch of, things we see in politics. That's for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's just crazy. Like I said, this is all giving me Tim Ballard vibes where it's sad, but like, we have to come to grips that we live in a world where people take something as disgusting and sad as what they do to children, and they pull at people's heartstrings. And I'm not saying this is what's happening here, okay? I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is people have to be careful, because this is something that pulls so hard, especially even someone like me who has children. Like, it pulls so hard at you, and it makes you like think with emotion. And so you just are so quick to join a class action suit or send money to somebody or whatever before you even research, well, who are these people? Who am I sending my money to? Who am I sending my statement to? I mean, I guess that's why we did this podcast. It's not because We're telling
And what do
people
they
not
stand for, right? What do
right.
these people stand for, actually?
Right. It's not that we're telling me and Culty are not telling you not to do something. If you feel in your gut that this is the right direction for you and you want to, by all means. But at the same time, we're just trying to put the message out there that not even just with this, but just in general, if someone comes on the scene, you want to like get to know, like do some background information, figure out who
Yeah.
are these people and where is my statement going and where you can't just do things
Yeah.
just, because I want to share, I'm going to share something else here because this bothered me. Okay, so this is what bothered me. As I watched the interview on ExJW Diaries with Stephanie, I saw Joe and Fran's comment where they said, Justin and Stephanie, thank you so much for this necessary information. Each of us can do our part and use our voice. The forms are very easy to fill out. Please do it now.
And
It
these are
just
respected people in this um group, in this what, I don't know what you would call us, because
in the community. Yeah, I
we're
know. I
not
hate using
really
that
in a
word.
community,
Right.
but
But it's like,
people look up to them. They look up to them
yes,
for what do Joe and Fran think, right? And here they're telling people, go ahead, move forward. And I would say, really be cautious, like really be careful and really research what you're doing first.
right. Because we have to keep in mind too, it's like, especially coming from Joe and Fran, people look up to Joe and Fran like they are the grandma and grandpa, the mom, pa of the community or a certain part of the community.
Yeah.
Obviously I feel like the community, and again, I hate using that word, but I feel like it's totally split. We know there's like all these different factions within, but they have they have a pretty big size group to follow them and listen to them. And I just feel like, I know that Joe and Fran wrote, because we did make a comment back to them and they just did say, yep, you're right. Like we shouldn't just be saying, just do it. But at the same time, it's like going forward, you have to realize that when you say things, are you going to be there if something backfires? Like if people take your advice and this all backfires, what then what? What
Mm-hmm.
if this doesn't go as planned? Just what if? Okay, we think Stephanie means well. We're not saying she doesn't, but I'm just saying, like, what if it doesn't go well and it blows up in people's faces?
Or even to say, what if someone who has now written out their statement and it brings up all this old trauma, etc., and they think they're going to get something out of this, and this is the final thing that they're going to do, and it's really going to work this time, right? And they put all their faith in that, and then, God forbid, something happens, and that person does not get to participate in this lawsuit, or this doesn't even happen ever, and they do something to themselves.
that would be
What
sad.
kind
Very
of,
sad.
yeah, and who's going to stand up and be like, wow, maybe I shouldn't have rushed these people into signing a document that could have such horrible consequences.
Right. So that's why we're not done yet, but we wanted to just stress this point. As we've said earlier, we're not lawyers, we're not giving legal advice at all. But what we
Yeah.
do recommend is that you do go talk to your own lawyer for your own legal advice. I mean, that's, I think, what we're stressing here is that before you do this, just talk to a lawyer. Talk to someone who specializes maybe in this. If you can find someone who specializes in these types of situations, talk to a lawyer who specializes and see what they think before you go ahead and do this. That's all
Yeah.
we're saying.
And one last comment on that is that Watchtower always deterred people from going to where? To the police directly. I don't know. It just doesn't feel right.
Right. And we're not saying that that people are not being told not, or like that the people are being discouraged from doing that. We're just saying we're not seeing the first thing that coming out of people's mouths should be like, first you would want to like go to the cops and,
Yeah.
make the charge. And then after that, you'd want to talk to your own lawyer. That's the first two things that
Yes.
should be coming out of your mouth. And then after that happens, then if they want to do the class action suit, they can reach out to Stephanie or reach out to these investigators.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I would say. And one other thing we wanted to talk about, it's been multiple different people that are within the community that are pro-Trump, and we get it. Okay, we get it. We're not like hating on Trump. We're just here to bring up points. The idea that this current administration is on our side and wants to do what's right for survivors, it doesn't seem like that. And we want to share something because Jake Altworldly recently did a post, and he also did a live stream with Ron Pomo. We're not going to show the live stream because we're almost done here, but I do want to show his statement here because he's so on point, and I'm going to give credit where credit's due. I know that me and Jake have had our little tiff here and there through chat, but I think that Jake will realize, and what he needs to realize is that there are a lot of us that have more things that we relate to than we have differences. And in this one situation, you and I are in agreement with Jake here.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I want to share his statement and what he said, which he's so on point. So here's what he said. He said, the bill ExJW activists and child abuse survivors have been working on for over 2 years has now been targeted by the Trump administration. On Sunday's stream, that's the one I was telling you about, what he did with Ron Pomo. We watched a video of the bill being signed, saw the joy on the faces of survivors and whistleblowers who had sacrificed their hard work and free time, who relived trauma over and over to make the world a better place. Now, because the president is beholden to corrupt so-called Christians who spit on the poor, do not feed the homeless, and have elevated to messianic status a proud philanderer who can't name a single Bible book. Well, that's a whole nother podcast, but we know it's because Trump is not a Christian. And because he has kept his campaign promise to suspend the Constitution, now it's all in jeopardy. Wake up. This is the fight. This bill was signed on Friday. Monday, the White House did this. If you claim to be an advocate for victims of CSA, if you claim to care about justice and you support this administration, why should anyone take you seriously? Look what your fealty to this man did to these survivors, and where's your line in the sand? And so he puts a link to the Justice Department announces First Amendment investigation into Washington State's new anti-Catholic law, Senate Bill 5375. And I think everyone watching this needs to look into this immediately.
Yeah.
And people need to start asking those hard questions. And those of you who are adamantly defending Trump and defending this administration, you need to look in the mirror, and I think you need to take a reality pill.
Definitely.
You need to check.
I mean,
you need to check yourself.
The Department of Justice is calling this anti-Catholic. So, I mean, that right there is telling you they are not for the victims or of CSA at all, because they're trying to shut down what they just passed in Washington State.
Right. And also, I do want to clarify that Culty and I are not blue or red. We think both sides have the same mission. So we think if the blue guys were in office, they'd be doing same stuff. If the red guys are in office, they'd be doing the same stuff. So what we're trying to say is that these people who are running things allegedly, because like that's a whole nother story too. Different day. Puppets.
Yep.
The thing is like they're not here for our best interest. And we need to, some of these people following them need to wake up and realize this is not who you think he is. You know what I'm saying? He is not who you think he is at all.
Trump is not your savior.
He's not
None
your
of these
friend.
people in government are your savior.
No. And that's, I think, also something we get caught up with, being religious or being raised in a religion is, and I think that's also another podcast for another day, but like we are programmed and indoctrinated from an early age. And I'm talking society wise, not just JWs, society-wise, Christians, religions in general. We are indoctrinated to have this savior issue where we expect a savior to come and rescue us because we're already
Right.
set to think that. You know what I'm saying? And so now
Totally.
here Trump comes in and everyone's like, he's a savior. Well, no, he's not. He's just not. So we just wanted to, we
Well-
thought that was a good point, you know?
It will be interesting to see how some people come out who do support Trump explain this one away, right? What are they
Yeah.
going to say this time? Because it's just another level.
Because they're going to say the same thing they always say, that Trump's playing 5D chess,
5D chess.
that the white hats are in control. It's like, no. And I don't know, I think this is a great place to end. I think, do you have any final thoughts, or are there any final thoughts before we wrap it up here?
I mean, I think we said everything. Just really be careful before you sign anything and send it to somewhere that you don't really know the people that are behind it. They could have the best of intentions, but you don't know them. I would investigate into the organizations that they are affiliated with. She gave us 2 names, and just take a look at what they're about. Listen to their podcasts, because it's politically motivated and it is religiously motivated.
Very religiously motivated. Yes, they're like, they would be the definition, the people behind this would be the definition of serious Trumpers, hard right. Yes. So that is an issue. I do, in my final thoughts, want to, I mean, I feel like I reiterated and I've made it clear, just get informed consent. That's the biggest thing here. It's like, no one's telling you what to do. We're not telling you what to do. We're just saying, have informed consent. Look into it. Make sure you're doing what's right for you. And I also want to add that if anyone watching this video thinks or knows someone that this video could help them or help somebody make that decision, because it's not an easy decision to make, please feel free to send this video. And also we would really appreciate and we welcome comments and any kind of information you can offer or advice. Like me and Culty, we are the definition of critical thinkers. We welcome views. We welcome different ideas. We welcome any information that you can add. If you're a lawyer and you can add information to help people, that's why we're here. We're trying to help people. Like I said in the beginning, we're not survivors. We're not here because we have any skin in the game. We are here because we genuinely care about people. I mean, I would feel guilty. I mean, I have that saying, that motto: if you see something, you say something, right?
Yeah.
And I won't be complicit in anything. I was silent for so long as a JW, and one thing, as I've gotten older and more experienced, I won't be silent. I won't. I won't do it anymore, you know? So that's also, so another thing.
Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, it's okay to ask questions. It's crucial. So if anyone has any questions or comments, or would like to join us like on a future podcast where either, you know, you have something you can share to add to this, even, please email us or reach out to us. Our email is spiritualtruthquest@gmail.com, and I will write it up there on the screen.
Even if you just want to talk about this some more and you have something to add.
Yeah, we welcome it, and we would love to talk to you. So, well,
that's it.
You know what time it is. Until next time,
definitely.
right?
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Thanks. Bye.